Yes. I understand the projection, but you say violated his boundary. Well, I'm not quite sure I understand a boundary that I violated.
The boundary that I violated was that he was not who I thought he was.
Yeah.
In other words, so I crossed over that in my assessing that he didn't like me.
Oh, okay.
Did he answer anybody else's questions when they raised their hand?
Yeah, a little bit here and there, not a lot, but I only was thinking of me. I wasn't focused on everybody else. I was thinking, why aren't my questions being answered? I really didn't take as much evidence. I wasn't smart enough to say, well, this guy doesn't seem to be that friendly to anybody. I think what got me was that experience in refectory when he didn't sit down with me. It was clearly my problem. But I was projecting onto him my feelings. What I want us to understand in this first concept is that all of us project onto others, our wives, our children, our friends, what doesn't belong to them, but what belongs to us. My wife, I know she feels this way, but I don't bother to really check it out. I'm really not making sure of that. I make all sorts of assumptions, and the old joke about assume is absolutely true. We project on to others. Now, if you were to look into the psychological literature, you would learn that psychologists frequently use what are known as projective tests to understand human personality. And we're going to have an opportunity today for you to take a little test in projection. And this is known as the thematic apperception test, or commonly known as the TAT. And we're going to use just card number 1 from the TAT. What I'd like you to do is I would like you to look at this less than perfect, but you can see a pretty well picture of this young man in front of you. He is holding a violin. He's looking down at the violin. Maybe you can't see that as clearly as I'd like. But he's looking at a violin, and underneath the bow is a piece of music. All right? Now what I'd like you to do, and we're going to take no more than 5 minutes, is whatever piece of paper you can, for 5 minutes, I'd like you to write a story about that young man. How is he feeling, and what is he experiencing in this moment as he's looking down at the violin, the bow, and the music? Ready? Go. No matter where you are now, go ahead and stop, and let's talk a few minutes. Okay, what do you see in this young man that he is feeling or experiencing? Who would like to start?
He's a perfectionist.
Okay.
He's frustrated that he can't play the music perfectly. And while when it's saying like that, he falls asleep and dreams about playing in front of the party. He can't party, you don't know. What is it, the big hall?
Party.
That's fine.
So, he is a perfectionist. Somebody will be able to see on this side. Perfectionist. And he is somebody who has grand dreams. Dreams grande. What else?
You could draw a line, and then on the far opposite end, you could write mine. I'm so tired of playing this violin. My parents are making me. I wish I was doing anything else.
So he's frustrated and forced.
Yep.
Yeah, Yeah, and why can't I at least learn how to play something cool like the guitar or the drums? Or even the bass. But the violin, girls don't dig guys who play violins. Violin players don't get to wear cool t-shirts with the sleeves cut off.
All right. What's your name again?
Ken.
That's right, Ken. Okay. So, Ken, you're describing rebellious feelings.
Right.
Anarchist.
Young man preparing for a music recital, seeking to prepare God's help for the Lord to guide and direct him so he'll be able to perform to the best of his ability, maybe reciting Philippians 4:13 to himself.
Lord, sorry, Scott. First name?
John.
Seeks Lord's help.
Don't call him.
Look on. Mike. Ah.
Resentment. I can't believe I'm missing another baseball game because of this stupid practice. I hate the violin, I hate my teacher, I hate my mom for making me do this. When I get older, I will never make my kids do this. I wonder what I can do next week to get out of this.
You're projecting your own feelings.
So you had to play the violin?
You could, it was saxophone. You can open me up like a book and read every page.
Anything else that anyone wants to share?
What about boredom? Pure boredom.
And your first name? Bob?
Young man's bored. You see the same music for too long. You wish you had something else to play.
All right.
I was going to say, I just see it as his first lesson. He just looks intrigued. You know, he looks.
He looks intrigued.
He looks, intrigued, but
I'm sorry.
he's ready to go in a sense. He doesn't know where to start. He's waiting for the teacher.
Doesn't know where to start. I'll take one more. We'll be here all day.
One more.
Yeah.
Don't call him Rich.
So I'm envisioning it to be like he's like in an important test recital, like I think somebody else said, but so I thought that he was saying to himself, I can't believe they expect me to play this particular piece of music. I've studied and prepared to play every single composer from the 18th century except for this one. This is the one that asked me to play.
So he's accomplished, but his accomplishment will not be validated because of that particular piece of music.
That's like he's being treated unfairly or bad luck. Or...
Okay, Rich.
Yes.
Unfair. Now,
Can't do that anymore.
what I want to do with you, and please don't let me off the hook here, is I don't know Byron very well. I like Byron from what I know about him. But I'll bet you that Byron is a perfectionist. And I'll bet you that Byron has big dreams. And I remember in our last meeting, you talked about some of the difficulties of getting everything done that you want to get done because of the magnitude of the things that you want to achieve and the difficulty with family. So, Byron is talking about, in that picture, himself. And then when we get to Mike, we get to somebody who's speaking about, in your life, a theme is frustration, and you feel forced in having to do many things that you may not want to do. You have to do them, and you're frustrated about it. True? False?
That was mine.
That might.
Not Mike.
It's just nice in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike and I are the same thing.
I know you pretty well, and that sounds accurate. You get frustrated, you feel forced, and then if we look at Ken, we're talking about rebelliousness. This kid is rebellious because inside of you something with which you have struggled and wrestled, has to do with rebellion. And John, this idea of seeking the Lord's help is nice Christian thinking. And in your life, as you struggle, because you do struggle, as we all do, you're seeking God's help to try to do things. And Mike, the other way now, there is resentment, there is hatred, there are authority issues, there are rebellious stuff that's gone on. If I were to work with you psychologically, I would listen to stories that have to do with a lot of rebellious issues with which you have struggled.
Do we be back in that office every day?
What's that?
Notify the officials about watching again, back to guns, going to theaters and stuff?
No.
I don't think it's going to be quite like that.
Hatred,
Controlled
resentment. That's it.
Bob talks about the issue of boredom.
City council.
And that may be something with which you struggle and deal with. Paul, and I've known Paul for longer than anybody in this room, many times he's not sure where to start in the various chapters of his life. I'm not giving away anything. But that's a struggle for him. Where do I begin? This next chapter, this next thing that I need to do, where do I start? And so what I'm getting at, or what's done in the thematic apperception test, is when the person writes a story, they're telling you all of themselves. What I'm going to do is read to you what this young man that I'm calling John, is not his real name, wrote. And this is in my new book, by the way, which we're going to hopefully have out before the end of the year. Here's what he wrote. It was 3 hours before Billy's first recital, and he was feeling quite nervous. Questions welled up in his mind. Will I play well? So many people will be watching me. What if I make a mistake in front of everybody? His stomach tossed and turned, and it seemed nothing could grant him relief. He thought for a moment, I'll just say I'm sick and not play. But after thinking about it, and knowing that would make things worse, he decided to go ahead and perform. How bad can 10 minutes on stage be? He said to himself. And so Billy played. And he played very well. In the response, John explains that as a person, he is quite nervous. He wants to play well, and he's concerned about many people watching him. This depicts a central theme in this young man's life. John's overt cooperation, this is a kind of kid who goes along with whatever the teacher says, whatever mom and dad say, whatever the pastor says. He's a goody two-shoes. But it really hides strong rebellious feelings. And his self-consciousness is very real for John. While these emotions may occasionally break through his front of propriety and restraint, it is the fear of exposing his unacceptable feelings that lead him to an over-organized life that includes considerable tension and rigid and self-restraint. Assertion by John endangers the respect he seeks, and he's quite uncomfortable in situations calling for expression of his real feelings. You see, what we're getting at is that this dumb picture that didn't come out very well on your handout, and I apologize for that. If you study it, especially study a good one to write a story, it's going to be about you. It's not going to be about this person. And I started writing a sentence, and I didn't mean to skip you, Rich. I do like you. That he was being treated unfairly. And so in your life sometimes, you have felt, in a thematic sense, that you have achieved more than you've been given credit for. And thus, you have felt as though things have been unfair. Here is a concept. If you take away anything this weekend, I want you to take this with you.